Yay, welcome back everybody. So we've got a cup of coffee and we're going to start diving deep into Design Space. Don't panic, take a deep breath. The water's warm, it's going to be nice and easy. I am going to encourage you that when I do these steps, just for the length of the video's sake, I may go a little quickly. Pause your video, pull up your Design Space and try the steps. And once you feel comfortable, then continue on with the video and continue doing that through all of these steps until you've played with them just a little bit. Again, you're not going to remember it all, but you are getting familiar before you jump in and start designing and start cutting with your machine. So this here, this white bar under your header, and beside the design panel, this one right here, this is your edit bar. What this does, and we're going to put in a couple of shapes. I'm just going to grab a couple, 2 or 3, and some lines, just so that we can play around. So I have my shapes here, and I have some score lines. So we're going to see, you notice that now it's lit up where it wasn't lit up before. It was all grayed out. If you have nothing in there, then it's going to be grayed out because there's not really anything for you to edit. Okay? So this button, most of you will be familiar with. This is an undo button. And what that does is whatever your last actions were, it's going to undo it. And it's going to undo it until you get back to where you were. And you can see that it's going back, and I can undo completely. And again, my bar's grayed out because there's nothing for me to edit. Okay? You have to have something in there for it to light up. So the next button is beside it. That's your redo. So I want to put all that stuff back and put it back just like I had it. So I'm just going to hit redo until I get there. And it's going to redo everything, and then when it grays back out, that means I haven't had any steps since then. Okay? So now we have our undo and our redo. Next we have line type. What line type does is when you select a shape, you're going to get your bounding box around it. And if you're on the new canvas, I believe these are gray. I don't believe they're colored, so don't worry about that. They do the same things basically. But I wanted to show you, starting in this canvas, you can see that when I turn that, the bounding box stays square, kind of like a snap to. If we go over into our settings and go to the new canvas, if you happen to be working on that one, and I'm just going to replace, it's going to take everything out, and that's okay. We're going to give it a second to refresh itself there. And I'm going to bring in those shapes again, or some shapes. I'll just get a few. Okay, and now I have some shapes, and I have my score lines. So I have all of those things. And now let's do, you can see that the handles are now gray. They still do the same thing. This one unlocks your image. We're going to cover some more of that here in a minute. This one deletes your image. We're going to undo that. Let's redo. I must need to refresh because I've been in Design Space so long. Let me just grab another shape. I'm going to bring that in. There we go. This one will rotate it, but you notice that your bounding box rotates with it now. It doesn't snap to. That is normal. Okay? Gonna undo. And then this handle enlarges or decreases. Now if you unlock it, it will skew it and change the shape of it because that unlocks the proportions. Okay? And we'll get more into that in just a moment. So right now, when I bring an image in, you can see my line type is set to cut. Okay? And that's exactly what it means. It means it's going to cut this shape out of my material on my machine. That's all that means. If you drop down on the stepper here, the little down arrow, you'll notice that you have a draw option depending on what machine you're on, okay? You will not have all of these options on an Explorer or a Joy machine. You will only be able to see options that are available for that machine. So if it's grayed out, either your machine cannot do it or the device you're using cannot do it. So if you're on an iPad, you may not be able to do the foil, okay? So even though you have a maker, it may be grayed out. So just so you know, if it's grayed out, it is not an option for either your machine or your device, one of the two. So cut means to cut. Draw, if I select draw on that, you can see those outside, everything in the middle went away. You can see the grid now. And that means it's going to draw that triangle instead of cutting it. It's just going to draw it. It's not going to do anything else. So if I put my paper on the mat and I say draw, it's going to draw that triangle and it's not going to cut anything. Because if you look in the layers panel, it says triangle, draw it. It doesn't say anything about cutting it. See my star? It says cut it. So that's all that the draw tool is going to do. If you want it to cut that triangle, then you're going to, let me just duplicate that. And I'm going to change that back to cut. Let's just make that white. And I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger. And I'm going to send it to the back. And now you can see that I've got a draw on top of there. But in order to make it draw, I'm going to have to tell it that I want it to draw in that spot. So I have to attach it. So now you see that I've attached, I have a triangle and a draw. And we're going to cover this more. I just wanted you to see that when you can see the grid behind it, that means you do not have it attached to anything. And that's exactly what it's going to do. Okay? So as it stands, if I change that to draw, I'm just going to undo till I get out of there. If I change it to draw, I can see the grid back there. That means it's just going to draw a triangle, and I'm looking at my layers panel, and it's draw only. There's no cutting. Then if I come over here and I say score, same thing. I've got it changed to a score line. My machine is going to prompt me to insert my scoring stylus if I'm on an Explorer Air or an Explorer machine. On a Joy, you do not have a score. It cannot score. And if you're on a Maker, it's going to tell you to use your scoring wheels, but there is a way to edit that, and we will show you that when we get to the matte screens. So there's your score line, so you can change your shape to score. Engrave. If you're engraving on something, you're going to change the line type to engrave. I'm sorry. All these line types do is tell your machine what to do with that shape, to cut it, to draw it, to score it, to engrave it. And that is simply all that line type tells it. It's going to tell us what tool we need to achieve the lines on this image. And that goes for any image. Deboss, you can see that it got bold. There is a debossing tool for the Maker, and that is going to deboss. And it's going, like if you use a poster board, it's going to indent it and indent a triangle into it for decorative purposes. All of these from engrave down are for your Maker only, except foil, that is for your Maker and your Explorer. Next is the wave tool. The wave tool, you can see right here, is a wavy cut. Okay, and that means with your wavy blade in there is a special tool. It's going to ruffle up that edge. Okay, and then your perforation tool. You can see that that's a dashed line. That is a dotted cut line. I don't know if you've seen them when you buy a package of something and you have that little pull tab and it rips open the box so that you can open it easily. That's what a perforation line is, and that's what this perforation tool for your Maker will do. whatever shape you tell it to perforate, that's what it's going to perforate. Okay? And then you have your foil tool. When you select it to change it to foil, you're going to need to select either your fine, your medium, or your bold tool. Okay? And then you're going to select your color right there by line type, so you can tell it what color. Same thing with draw. If you're on draw, you can come in and you can change your pen. And you can see how thin that is. That's the fine 4mm. Extra fine may not change it much. It's got a little thinner. And then your gel pen, you can see that it thickened up. Your gel pen is a 1mm pen, so it's going to show you that it's going to be a heavier line. If you go to your 8mm pen, it's going to get a little bit smaller on that line. You can see that those lines are changing. This is new, and it doesn't show that on the matte screen, but it does show you in the canvas, so that when you're laying this out on a card, you can get an idea of how thick your lines are going to be with a font, with text. And I will show you that here shortly as well when we get to the text bar. If you're using a 1mm marker, you can see that it's going to get larger there still. Your calligraphy pen is really heavy, and you can see how heavy that line gets. It's going to change with whatever that you're using. So again, on the foil, if I go to fine, it's going to get a little thinner. And this is just to give you an idea of what your finished product is going to look like, so that you don't select bold and then you make your project and you go, oh, that's just really too thick. I wish I had known it was going to be that thick. They have fixed that so that we can see it on the canvas and adjust accordingly. So those are your line types. Okay. Next, I'm just going to get rid of these images that we've used so I don't have to undo them. Next, we have fill. This is going to come into play when you're using patterns and print then cut. So I'm just going to touch on it here, and we'll go into more detail on the print then cut video. So if you come up here and you want to do this star, I'm just going to duplicate it a couple of times so I have some to work with. If you come up here and select no, it's on no fill because it's on the line type cut. That's going to be the default. But if I decide I want to print that star rather than cut it, for right now, I'm going to select print. And you can notice in the layers panel where a regular star says cut, this one now says cut and print. Okay? It's going to print that dark gray color because that's what I'm telling it to print. That's the color I have selected. You can see. If I want it to print this blue color, then I need to select blue, and now it's going to print a blue star and cut it out. That's what it will do. If you need a specific shade, you're going to go to Advanced, and you're going to move that around until you get that shade that you want, or you're going to come in here and put in your color codes. Okay? And you can find color code charts. We even have some over in the group, and I have some on my website. If you need those, let me know. We'll help you get some charts that will help you with color and where to find them. All right, so that's how you change the color. Now, under the color header right here, you can step on your stepper here, and you've got pattern. This is where you can go in and you can select a pattern for it to print. And I'm just going to select one here that we can see. Let's do that one. There we go. So now I've told it, and it's kind of hard to see. I'm going to come over here to my layers panel on the bottom right, blank canvas. I'm going to click it. Notice my edit bar changed. And I'm going to select a color, and I'm going to go pale yellow just so you can see my star. So now I've told it to print and cut these stripes in this ivory colored paper with the stripes on it. You look at that, it's all set up and ready to go. That's what your fill does. It changes it from a cut to a print. So it's not cutting out of a colored cardstock you put on your mat, but it's going to print on your printer and cut that pattern that you told it to cut. And again, we will go into that a lot deeper when we get into print and cut. You can even right here beside it, edit those patterns. Again, that is for the next. I'm going to change that back. So I'm going to go no fill. And you can see that it went back to a cut. Look over in the layers panel and it is back to cut. Okay. Next in that edit menu, you have your select all. And that is going to select everything on the canvas. Everything. I don't care if you've got something at position number 300. It's going to pick everything in the canvas and select it. To unselect, you're just going to hit deselect. You can also left click your mouse and drag, and everything it touches, it will select. So if I didn't want to get these lines, but I did want to get all the other pieces, I can draw just a box and select it, and you can notice over here in the layers panel, my lines are not selected. The darker gray is what I have selected, okay? And then my select all is still available because I don't have everything selected. You can also click on a piece, hold your shift key on your keyboard, and you can select other pieces in the layers panel, okay? So several ways of selecting your objects and selecting all, deselecting all. When you select all, then you have the edit. You notice without it selected, it's not there. Or if you select just a single item. Your edit is just for cut and copy. You can also right-click, cut, right-click, paste, right-click, copy, right-click, paste, duplicate. You can delete from your right-click. Well, it says I can. There we are. I'm just running a little slow. I apologize. So lots of stuff you can do. Send to the front, send to the back. Okay? And those are called your arrange tools, but they are also in your right click. So you can move that to the back and notice, let me just make one of those a different color. This one here is on top of the others. If I right click and I send it backward just once, it's going to go behind one. If I right click and move that one backwards, just so I can bring it back, I can move it all the way to the back and now it's behind everything. Notice that it dropped down to the bottom of the layers panel. This is your top layer, this is your bottom layer, and this is the order that it is on the canvas. So you can also drag. Well, I say you can, there we go. You can also drag them into place, back and forth over in the layers panel. And those are your arrange tools. Move forward, move backward. They all do the same thing. Send to front, send to back, move forward. So if you're clicking on something and you're moving it backward and it doesn't look like it's doing anything on the mat, then look at your layers panel, because it probably is, but it may have to keep stepping up a step each time to get there. Next, you have your align tool, and notice that it's grayed out. You have to have more than one object selected, okay? If you look in your layers panel, I'm going to select these. I have 1, 2, 3 layers. Each image is a layer, okay? I have 3 selected. So now my align tool is ready, and I can align them all left. I can align them all, center them horizontally, which is this way. And then I can align right if I want. Let me pull one over just so you can see. Align to the right. That takes them all right. I can select them and align top. Now they're all centered. If you look in the layers panel, I have all 3 selected and they are aligned right there to the top. Let me separate them and show you that again. Align top. Now you can see that they stayed where I had them, but they just aligned to the top. I can center them vertically, which means if I have one down here and one up here, and I select them, I can align them center vertically, and it's going to put them all on the same level. Especially if one is larger than the other, that's when you can really tell a difference. So if I want to get those three, align, center it vertically. Now everything is centered vertically. You also have your aligned bottom. I can align them to the bottom, or I can center everything. Okay? That centers everything. Now let's take a look at the rest of the arrange tools, and I'm just going to keep these off to the side just so it's easier. I'm going to duplicate this a couple of times. So now I have these stars. Let's get that out of the way too. What do they do? Okay, so I've got my stars, I've got them selected, and I want to go to align and distribute them horizontally. That is right to left. What that did, you saw those two shift, is give an equal amount of space between the four stars. This is the starting point, this is the ending point, and it distributed these two equally between these two. Okay, that is what that does. If you go to the align, distribute vertically, it's going to distribute those between the uppermost and the lowermost. So whatever one's lowest, I'm just going to put one lowest, put one highest, and I'm just going to kind of scatter those. If you watch those two center stars, distribute them vertically, it's going to give me the equal amount of space from this star to that one and this star to this one up, going vertical, okay, up and down. It's really easy to tell when you have, let me go in here, let me grab a circle. I'm just going to shrink that down. And let's say I wanted a row of dots. I'm going to get a bunch of them. Okay, I'm going to slide one way over here and one way over here. And I want to line these up, and I want them to be set equally. I don't want that star. Let me get that out of the way. I want them all set up equally. So I'm going to go to align, and I am going to align them vertically, center them vertically. That way they're all at the same height. The top of all of them are identical. Then I'm going to go to align, and I'm going to distribute them horizontally, meaning I want them spaced out from the first one to the last one equally. And then it will distribute those equally apart. Now if I want spaces between them instead of them sitting there, I need to give it a little more space. I can come in here again, align, distribute, center them vertically, make sure they're centered vertically, and then distribute them horizontally, and it gives me equal amount of space in between each of my circles. So play around with those tools and get used to those. And we just covered arrange. Basically, it's going to be the same thing. If you want something to go to the front, the back, you can do it in several different ways. If it's down behind those dots and I want it to the front, I'm going to bring it to the front. Okay? Super simple and easy on arrange. What is flip? I'm going to get a different shape just so you guys can see this and what flipping does. I'm going to grab a C. Let's grab this house. I'm going to insert these two images. And I'm going to clear out all of that just so we're not cluttered and you guys can see. All right, so let's say that I really like this little house, but I really want this gable to be to the left. For whatever reason, my text will fit better if I flip it around, because I just don't want it there, but I do want it here on this side. Okay, I want it to come out even with that on this side above that, because it just doesn't look right here and I can't fit it in and it's hanging off the side. So how can I do that? I'm going to go to my flip button with my image selected, and I'm going to flip it horizontally. Now I can place that C in there, keep it even with the edge over here, and my design looks a little bit nicer. It looks a little more cohesive. That's what flip does horizontally. Now if I want to flip it vertical, it will flip it upside down. If for whatever reason you need to flip it upside down, you can do that. Okay? Super, super, super easy. Another way that flip helps, a lot of people do this. I don't like to do this. If you want to do it, you can. But when people cut iron-on, most, not all, most iron-on has to be mirrored, so that when we apply it, it can be read. So if I cut this out of adhesive vinyl to go on a cup, I'm just going to cut it just like it is. When I send it over to the mat, it's going to cut just like that. I'm going to use my transfer tape and lift it up off after I weed it and apply it. But if I do iron-on, I have to put my carrier sheet to the mat, and my sticky side is up, which is not sticky because it doesn't get sticky until we heat it. So with iron-on, we have to flip that image. We have to mirror it. So I'm just going to show you. I can flip it here, horizontal, and now it reads backwards. That is perfect for most iron-on that has to be mirrored. If your iron-on does not need to be mirrored, do not flip it. And I'm just going to show you what I mean. I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to flip that back. And I'm going to hit make it, and we're just going to take a peek at the mats here. Now this one is backwards, and this one is not. If you look down here, you have a mirror button, and if I mirror it, now it's going to look just like the other one. And that's what flipping will help you do. It will also help when you're creating cards for writing and you need it to write on a particular part of a card and it needs to be flipped the other way for the machine. That's going to come when you're more advanced, and I have a few videos where I've done that and I can show you how. But for now, you just want to make sure that you mirror your iron-on in here or on the canvas. Totally up to you. If you mirror it here, don't mirror it before you cut it, okay? Because Design Space is going to give you a reminder when you select iron-on. Again, I'm on my Maker. If you are on a Air machine or an Explorer machine, set your dial to custom and you can pick your materials here just like everybody else. If I click Everyday Iron-On, make sure your mirror is turned on for iron-on material and face the shiny side down. If I have flipped that in the canvas, I'm looking at it now and I didn't, then that means I need to click Edit and I need to mirror it. If I clicked it in the canvas and it already looks that way, then I'm not going to mirror. Okay, so that's when your flip tool is going to come in. I'm going to cancel that, yes. That's when the flip tool is going to come in, and that's going to help you. So this one, let me change my color here, just so we don't get confused. Gray, mirror for iron-on, blue for adhesive vinyl, sticky vinyl, tape. Think of tape, sticky vinyl. You want to leave it that way. All right. And next we have size. You can see right here that the size is 10.417 inches by 5.905 inches. My handles will let me shrink that or bring it up. As long as it's locked, it won't skew. You can unlock it here and notice that the handle is unlocked here, and you can lock and unlock it from the handle as well. Now when it is unlocked, if you size it, if I can select it there, my handles, there we go. You notice that it skews, okay? So if you unlock it, you're going to mess up the look of it or change the look of it. You may want to change the look of it. But if you don't want it messed up or skewed or changed, you need to leave it locked when you size, okay? You can also just type in your size if you want it to be 10 inches, and it will automatically change the height and keep it proportioned. If you unlock it and you change it, then it will not change the height and it will skew it as well. Super easy for sizing. Next is your rotate. You also have a handle for that, and that is going to allow you to rotate your image, okay? The bounding box is going with it on this one. If you're on the classic canvas, it will not. It will snap to and keep it straight. All right, that's rotate. You can also type it in if you want it to rotate 180 degrees. There you go. Got to do that. If you want it to rotate 90 degrees, you can type it in that way. Well, that's 330 and 90. So rotation is easy. What is position? You've got your X position and your Y position. X is your width, okay? That's how wide it is. Remember, the width and then your position is wide. If you look up at the top of the ruler, you see that 7? That's position X. If you look to your left, to your ruler guide, that is 1.556. That is your vertical position. So you have horizontal and vertical. This is going to come in handy for several things. If you've got a card and you need to put a score line on it at a particular spot, and we're just going to say that I'm making a 5x7 card. So I'm going to make it 10 inches wide because when we fold it, it will be 5 and 7 inches tall. And then I'm going to lock that back. And I'm going to change it to white so you guys can see. And I'm going to place it at the 0, 0 position. Now I have that there. I'm going to scroll over so you guys can see it's at the 0, 0 position. And I need to put in a score line, maybe 2. So I'm going to grab that score line, and I know I want it to be 7 inches tall because that's the height of my card. And let's say I want to score it at the 3-inch position and the 5-inch position. So I'm going to duplicate it, and I am going to select one of my score lines, and I'm going to come over and put it at the 3, 0, and then I'm going to put the other one at the 5, 0. You really only want one line on a card, but this is just to show you how to make sure that your score lines, if you're doing a box or something, or you want a book fold, whatever it is you may be doing, you'll want those lines at that correct position. Then you want to select it all and attach. And then when you move it, your score lines are exactly where you told them to be. Okay? So that is what that position tool will do. Also, and I'm just going to run this down to the 30-inch. You notice that it disappeared. You can't see it on the canvas. I'm at the 0, 0 position, and there's nothing there. I have uploaded an image, and I cannot find it. It's not on the mat, but it shows in my layers panel. If it shows in the layers panel, it is in that canvas. It is there, but you can't see it. What you can do is select it, and it's going to take you right to it. And you can see that it's at the 30-inch position. I can select it and move that over to the 0-inch, and then when I click on it, it's going to take me back over to the 0, and I can see where my project is. Now in the classic canvas, I don't believe if you click on it that it will automatically populate over to where it's at. I believe you have to just go in and change the coordinates. I'm just going to save this real quick. I'm just going to leave it as untitled. Until, how about that? Let's just say until I delete it. So I've got that in there. I'm going to put that at the 30-inch position, and I'm going to save it. Now let's go over to the classic canvas for those of project not saved. You can only saved. There we go. I'm going to put this over at the, let's put it at the 24. Oh, 241, no wonder, 24. There we go. And I'm going to save it. The pink bar means something's going on. So now I'm just going to go to my projects, and I'm going to select that. And I'm going to say, nope, I'm not going to select that. I'm going to go over and I'm going to change my settings for those of you using the classic canvas instead of the new, just so we can see the differences. All right, and I'm going to click it, and that one is moving over too. So maybe they have fixed that. Used to it wouldn't. You could click on it and then it would show you the position and you had to change it. It didn't automatically go over to it. Okay, so they have fixed it, I guess. It used to be the other way where you couldn't see it. Okay, let me change the position and go. Just gonna go up. There we go. Yep, it's fixed. So it doesn't matter which canvas you're in, it should be working. Used to, you had to go in and select it in the canvas and then change the position and it would pull it up for you. Now it takes you over to the position. That's great. Yay. Thank you, Cricut. So that covers all of the edit bar. So guys, go in there and play. You can't mess anything up. You can create and save all of these little projects that you're doing. And then you can go in and delete them. You can just name them practice 1, practice 2. You don't have to keep them. You can go in and delete them from your normal projects, and then they won't clutter anything up in there. So go and play. We're going to come back and we're going to go into the text edit bar.